and welcome to Real World Conversations, where we talk to experts in their fields about the things that they're passionate and good at. And we are here today with Hunter Kallay, who is going to, has a fascinating background. I don't want to spoiler alert his intro, so I'm going to let him actually introduce himself. And today we are also joined with Charlotte Benkaz, who is a co-founder here at New State University. So over to you, Hunter.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sasha, Charlotte, for inviting me to be here. So my name's Hunter Kallay. I'm currently a PhD candidate at the University of Tennessee, where I study philosophy. In particular, I study the ethics of artificial intelligence. That includes the programming of AI systems as well as their applications in society. And so really got into philosophy because I was really interested in questions of ethics and religion. And I always kind of knew that I was going to get into philosophy, though I got my undergraduate in business management marketing because everybody told me, you got to find something practical, don't go into philosophy right away. So I took that advice, studied philosophy on the side anyway. Probably paid more attention to that than I did my classes at that point. But then ended up getting my master's in Houston, and then now pursuing my PhD, getting to the final stages of my dissertation, but studying things in artificial intelligence. And then also I'm running a newsletter called Fry AI. This newsletter's been around for almost 3 years now. It's a daily AI newsletter where I explore the latest advancements in artificial intelligence and what they mean. So really excited to be here and talk more about all this stuff together.
You know what I love about your background is that usually people go from philosophy to something more practical to pay the bills, and you have the practical stuff and then you're fusing it with this research and obviously passion area for you. So just super cool. But so you obviously are at an education institution. We are an online university. And one of the things that we struggle with messaging on is how do you communicate to people that you are using AI? So we use AI both operationally and also to help design and develop courses. How do you make sure you're being transparent about those pieces? So we're very explicit. We're like, this is created with this tool, or we try to model sort of the transparency that we want to see, but it's sort of there's a little bit of a rub there in education. So what are the issues that you're seeing in this space?
Yeah, so I've worked across 2 different universities working on how to implement AI into the classroom, because it is one of the biggest issues right now facing universities, even K through 12, just how to implement AI in the classroom. And so I've seen and talked to professors that are all in on AI. We should bring in AI. Everybody should use AI. This is the future, all this stuff. And then on the other end, there are professors who are like, I want nothing to do with AI. I've seen actual curriculums or actual, syllabi that have guidelines on them that say, if you use AI in my class, you will get an F. I've seen that. And so it's just there's these polar, these polar opposites working against each other in education. And then you have the administration who's sitting in the middle, often lagging behind the capabilities of AI, unsure what they're supposed to do. And so it really gives rise to all sorts of problems. And usually what I've seen in the classroom is there's a distrust that builds between the professors and the students. The professors are not transparent about how they're using AI on their end, or how the students maybe should and shouldn't use AI. And the students feel like the professors don't trust them. They feel like, AI is a good tool, so they want to use it, but they feel like the professors just think that they're going to use it to cheat, and they don't trust them to use it at all. And so there's a big mismatch amongst the professors, and then there's a rub between the professors and students, and it creates a sort of distrust. And so I think this is the biggest problem right now. Is it's absolutely unarguable that AI is going to make a big difference in the world. It already is, and it's going to revolutionize education. But what that looks like on an individual basis, that's where the problems come in.
For sure. And I know, so one of the pieces of our model that we want to make sure works really well is actually the human component, right? So Charlotte, do you just want to tell Hunter just a little bit about sort of how we've been thinking through the human career connection, and
Absolutely.
how, yeah.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we've put together as part of New State U is a community. We're inviting all of our students, all of our faculty members, as well as our alumni, because we even have a couple grads already to date. We're inviting them to talk about just what's happening in AI. So very similar to your newsletter, we're probably talking about the same things on a day-to-day basis. But it's just moving so quickly that we want to get the message out there that we're in this together, right? Nobody has the right answer. Well, maybe some people in Silicon Valley do, but none of us that are trying to just figure out AI. So let's try to figure it out together and let's put a community together. And that's been a really, really, I think, healthy way in order to take people off their guard. And then also, I know that people appreciate it because, you'll take on to something, because of your background, you'll understand it better than another person and you can help each other. And so it's just made for a really positive learning experience.
So question for you, Hunter, to sort of focus on a little bit of a different learning here. As you have built out your newsletter, that's almost like a community of practice, like saying your newsletter has existed for 3 years in 2026 is like, whoa, an AI newsletter, that's 3 years old. That's a long time for one of these AI newsletters. Like you're at the you were early on in sort of establishing a community of interest around AI. Like, how do you approach building a community in your newsletter? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the biggest thing it starts with is the passion that you put into the newsletter every single day. I think that's really what it starts with. I over the course of the past 3 years, I've seen a lot of tech newsletters and AI newsletters come and go and start and die. I've seen it over and over again. And one of the big reasons is because they're either after, ad sponsorships, and that's all they care about is, getting enough ad income or enough clicks on their ads so they get paid, or just getting people to engage with their content. But they don't really care about the actual people behind the newsletter. When I started Fry AI, it was not even really on my radar to create something that would be really as big as it is now. I just wanted to share the things that were happening in AI with people and share them in a very clear way. And so one of the big things to build that sort of community is just being a genuine person and making sure you're putting the care into the newsletter. Whenever I put out the newsletter every single day, I email it to myself the day before, and I actually email it to my wife as well. And we both read it separately. And, I scrutinize and I say, is this something that I would be interested in? Is it clear? Is it readable? Are the tools interesting? And so I genuinely try to create that high quality. The second thing I try to do is I really try to respond to feedback. And so even if I don't respond to every single person like via email, when somebody leaves a review, I read every single review that I get on the newsletter. For every single day that I've run the newsletter, which is 1,000 newsletters, I read the reviews every single day. And I try to adapt. For instance, if people say, hey, I want more tools for business, I make sure of a note, one person wants more tools for business, maybe there's more people, but hey, that person's an active reader. They took the time to talk about that. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to be responsive to that. And then the third thing I try to do, and this is the final thing really, is I try to create tiers. So I try to create tiers or segments for people. And so there's some people in the newsletter that just want to open the newsletter, read a couple stories, check out a tool, and that's it. They're good with that. Or some people just want to scroll the headlines and be done. And that's fine. But then there are people who want to go deeper than the newsletter. And this is something that I found over the past couple months is there are people who hey, this is great, but can you filter through this a little bit more? Can you give me more content, more curation? And so I really was thinking about it more, and I'm like, you know what? I'm really good at ethics. I kind of have a background in studying business and finance. And so I'm like, I'm going to start a premium. And so I did. And it takes me a little bit of extra time, but I try to make it as affordable as possible. I always had a rule. I'm like, if I ever have a premium, it's going to be less than a cup of coffee. And so that's what I always thought. I'm like, people can buy a cup of coffee a month. They can afford a premium. And so I think this stuff's much more important than having your cup of coffee. But every week, that's what I do. And you talked about it, about what you're doing with your community is having conversations with people. That's what I try to do. I try to show them, yeah, sure, there are these headlines in the daily newsletter, but what are the conversations that actually matter? Like, what are the conversations that I'm having as I'm studying and researching AI? What are these conversations behind the headlines? And those are the things I try to draw out. And sometimes this is things like how AI can emotionally manipulate you and the dangers of that people don't realize, or issues of AI in education, or AI's impact on your job and your critical thinking. And so I really talk about these risks and how to protect yourself from them and how to become aware of them, so that they can be equipped to be, not only know what's going on, but be thought leaders in this space.